Anybody who's ever been over our house for Shabbat knows we have a very kind of touchy-feely Shabbat table. We go around and everybody shares usually something that's been inspiring them recently or a piece of Torah that really speaks to them. And we always start with the person who has been to our table the most, someone who can really kind of model the type of sharing that they've seen and experienced at our home a whole bunch of times. But for everybody else, you have to be careful where you sit, because after the person who's been to our house the most, we go to the person to their right. We always go around to the right. And why? What's this whole idea about going to the right? Well, it actually finds its home on this daf 15 of Yoma, when it's talking about the different places you sprinkle the blood on the altar in the temple, and it gives the different places. And first you do this one, then you do this one, and say, well, why not the other way? Okay, we agree that these are the places you're supposed to sprinkle, but what's with the order? Why does it have to be this way? Now, why not that way? And the response is simply, we always go to the right. Now, the Gemara doesn't go into this particular area that I'm about to mention, but I got first exposed to this idea while learning with Rav Daniel Cohen and learning this whole idea that, we go to the right because right is the side of chesed. Chesed is considered to be giving, loving kindness. Left represents Gavor. I think this camera actually flips me over, so you might be seeing it backwards, but this actually is my left hand, no matter what side of the screen it might be on. And left is strength. Left is really, it's much more holding back. Right is much more this energy of giving and loving. Left is this energy of holding back. And we always, well, they both are important, and we try to have the two of them exist in harmony. We always want to be really emphasizing that to the right, that giving, that loving, that whole idea of the chesed. Of the two, we're going to err to that side rather than to the side of that tightness and holding back. That's one thing that I can think of when I think about the going to the side of the right. There are lots of other reasons that people could point to as to why we do this, because the Gemara doesn't explain. It doesn't say that we go to the right because of this whole idea of loving kindness. I tend to think this is kind of a later Hasidic understanding of it. But there's so much, like, we talk about, the right hand, a person's right hand man, a person's right, like for most of us, right is really our main hand. Everything we do, and when I write with my right. And you see, then you think that maybe that would be strength. You think that would maybe be the one of strength, but it's interesting. We say left is strength, and that right is that ability to give. And we want to really be emphasizing that. And we think about that by always saying, okay, we're going to go to the right first. And it's not just going around. It's also even things like putting on our shoes. I put on my right shoe before I put on my left shoe. It's just something we should always be thinking about in terms of how we want to orient ourselves.